All right. So this is the pre-lab recording for the Energy of the Sun lab. This lab itself is pretty simple as far as the procedure goes, but it is a discussion lab, which I know tends to make things a little more complicated on the. So this one, so we're just going to talk about how to do the lab briefly. Shouldn't be too difficult for you to figure out how to get this one done. It's pretty simple as far as what you physically have to do. And then most of our time will be focused on, what to do with the whole discussion assignment to make sure that you don't lose any points because you leave off things that are asked for in the prompt. So, physical items that you need is a 100-watt light bulb, a ruler, a thermometer, and a stopwatch. All right. Just basically, in general speaking, if you look at your student guide, it talks about you hold a ruler away from the light bulb with the light bulb on, 4 inches away, let it sit there for 5 minutes, record the temperature of the thermometer, then you pull the thermometer away, let it cool off for at least 5 minutes, and then you repeat the process from 8 inches from the light bulb, and then you repeat it over again from 16 inches, and then 32. Right? So this is not a very difficult setup of a lab. Just one thing that I know sometimes creates issues is the lab talks about, like, you have to have the student guide talks about, you need a lamp with a shade that you can take off. Trust me, there's going to be a bulb somewhere in your house where you have access to it. All right, so for example, I've got some pictures here from bulbs around my house. All right, so this is in my bathroom. Those point down. There's no obstruction between the light bulb and my thermometer. That works just fine. Or if you have a fan in your house, all right? Now, some of these things might be high. If you need to stand on a step stool or something, ask permission before doing that, all right? Or maybe you have a really tall sibling or something like that that can help you out. But the key is you don't necessarily need the light bulb situation that it describes exactly in the lab. You just need a light bulb that you can access that won't have anything between the light bulb and your thermometer. You want the thermometer to have just air in between the bulb and the thermometer. Okay? Now, one thing to help with the actual collecting of the data and something that'll give you data that makes a little bit more sense is what type of light bulb you have. Right? I know in my house, we, for energy purposes, have a lot of LED lights. They really don't put off heat. So you're not going to notice much of a change in your thermometer if you use an LED light bulb. Right? If you still have halogen or incandescent bulbs somewhere in your house, those are going to be the ones that produce the most heat and give you the most clear and obvious data. CFLs will work too. They just don't produce as much heat, but LEDs really will not. All right. So it's possible that maybe you're like my husband and I, and you've gone through and replaced all of the LED bulbs. Maybe somebody has one lying around somewhere that's not anymore. You might have to switch the bulb out. All right. Put an incandescent bulb in here or something like that. Another good light source that some people will have on occasion. When I was growing up, my dad had this garage lamp that he would use when he was working underneath the car or something like that, and it produced tons of heat. So, I mean, if you're not sure, ask your parents or someone else around the house to help you find an appropriate bulb for this. All right. I just want to caution you that LEDs really won't give you good results. So if you have the option to plug in a halogen or an incandescent bulb, take that option. Okay. And again, if you have any questions related to, what kind of light bulb setup and things like that that you need in your house, contact me. We'll figure out a light bulb you can use. All right. So really the big thing with this lab is the fact that it's a discussion assignment. And a lot of times discussion assignments historically go worse students tend to get lower grades, and most of the time it's because they leave something out. All right? So what I want to do is the prompt here. It says, review the data you collected concerning temperature as it relates to distance from the heat source and write a hypothesis that explains this relationship. Using the discussion board, share your data and your hypothesis with your classmates. Describe how your data supports or does not support your hypothesis, and then respond to a classmate and evaluate that classmate's hypothesis. There are 4 things in here that I will be looking for to give you points for. 3 of them are going to be in your response. All right, so let me highlight these. First thing, using the discussion board, share your data and your hypothesis. Those are 2 things that you are going to have to include to get full points. And when I say share your data, share all of it. All right, so tell me what the temperature was at 4 inches. Tell me what the temperature was at 8 inches. Tell me what it was at 16 inches and so forth. All right, and make sure you have a hypothesis. We'll talk about how to set that up on the next slide. The third thing that I'm going to look for in your response is this one. Now, looking at your data and your hypothesis, does that data match the hypothesis or does it show something else? All right, so use your data to explain if your hypothesis was supported or not. All right, just writing the data supports my hypothesis will not be enough to get full points here. You're going to have to actually give me an example using the numbers from your data. All right, so those 3 things in yellow are the things that you have to include in your own post. Okay, the last thing you're going to get points for will actually be a separate post, and that's going to be responding to a classmate. You need to respond to at least one and do more than just say, good job. All right, actually sit there and show that you read their response and, say, you know what, I really like the way you explained this, or, your data really clearly shows that it was supported your hypothesis or something like that. Right? Do more than just good job or I agree. So those are the things that you're going to want to make sure that you include to get full points for this assignment. If you're missing any of that, you can really think about it. Each of these things are going to be worth 5 points each. If you miss one, that's automatically 25% of your grade gone. Okay, so the hypothesis should and must predict a relationship between temperature and distance from the light bulb, because that's the stuff we are looking at. We're going to change the distance from the light bulb, and we're going to predict what that change is going to do to the temperature. All right, so what I have here is a couple of starts, a couple of kind of just ways to start off your hypothesis, and then you guys are going to have to make sure that you finish this so it makes sense. All right, so then, you could start off with saying if the thermometer is closer to the light bulb, and then make a prediction about how temperature will change. All right, so you might say then temperature will increase or decrease. Or you can start out if the temperature increases a lot, then the distance from the light bulb got farther or closer to the light bulb. Okay, so use these as a great way to, one, you're going to have that if-then format, which I'm going to look for. All right, and to make sure that you are addressing both the distance from the light bulb and the temperature, how those 2 things are related to each other. All right. Now, when it comes to whether or not your hypothesis is supported, one, make this its own separate sentence. All right, so you're going to have a sentence at least where you share your data, a sentence at least where you share your hypothesis, and then you need to do something where, because in the data, as the temperature increased, the distance got closer, my hypothesis was supported, or something like that. All right, so make sure that you correctly analyze your data in the sentence. You need to say more than just the data supports my hypothesis. You need to explain it. What evidence from your data shows that your hypothesis is supported? Okay. All right. And actually, this part we don't need to worry about. So the last thing is just to, make sure you read your classmates' posts and respond to at least one of them. So try to avoid things like, I agree, or great job, because that's really not meaningful or helpful at all to your classmates. Because you know what, I promise there's probably going to be people who leave parts out, like maybe they don't share their data, or they don't describe if the data supports their hypothesis, or they don't have a hypothesis, period. Those are your classmates that could really use your help in suggesting to them or reminding them to include it. All right. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Contact me right away. I would love to help and make sure that you do well on this lab. But if you don't have any questions, good luck, and I look forward to getting your response.